Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brandon Shank, and welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. What's up, world? Welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. It's a beautiful day here in Virginia Beach, and I think we have to start out with what I think will become a movie.
Okay.
So I was born in Hagerstown, Maryland. My family is from Hagerstown, Clear Spring particularly.
Yeah.
And they just won state championship.
I heard. Yeah.
All right. Clear Spring just won the baseball state championship. Now, the way it went down was they won by the final score of 3-2 in the 11th inning.
Mm-hmm.
So the tragic side to this, and I have not fact-checked this, but I've read it on multiple outlets, that there was 3 baseball players that were tragically killed this year.
Yes, there was. Yep.
Numbers 3,
Mm-hmm.
2, and 11.
Yep.
And in the 11th inning, they walked it off and won the state championship 3-2. That's the story only God writes.
Exactly.
And so I think that, this will be a movie at some point. Somebody said it would. I'm like, how can it not? I mean, what a story.
Yeah.
What a story.
Yeah. My brother-in-law went to Clear Spring.
Really?
So yeah, he was very quick to let me know about it.
Well, interesting enough, so his brother-in-law shares the same name
Yeah.
as my great-grandmother.
Yeah.
All right? I think we're related.
Oh,
I really
sure.
do think we're related.
Somewhere. Yeah.
I do, and I think it's probably closer than we think because I didn't know this until last year. My grandfather was from Clear Spring. My grandmother was, we're from there.
Yeah.
And so the name that we share is from there, and my family's from there. So I'm like, well, you have to be related.
Oh, yeah.
It's too small of a place to not be. So
Yeah.
I don't know how close I'm related, but it's got to be pretty doggone close.
I would imagine.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not, it just is what it is. But anyway, Clear Spring, hey, congratulations on your state championship. So there was a New York high school baseball championship that ended in a very, very sad way. I was watching the highlights. It was, I don't know how many runners were on, but there was a drop third strike. For those of you who don't know what that means.
Oh, is this the 2 red teams? They were both wearing red jerseys for some weird reason? Yeah.
Maybe. But there was a drop third strike is whenever the catcher doesn't catch the third strike, it hits the ground. If there's 2 outs, then you got to throw it down to first.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the rules of it. Well, there were 2 outs. And the catcher drops the third strike, but it was kind of, it wasn't like a very clear, it was a drop third, but it was something you could very easily miss.
Yeah.
And the catcher and the whole team just start celebrating. They run out on the field. Meanwhile, the team starts running around the bases and walks it off to end the state championship on a drop third strike. And the team that dropped the third strike thought they won.
You want to know the saddest part of that video? Did you watch
worse than what I just said?
Well, that's pretty sad. But did you watch the other team's second baseman? He's the only one that knew what is going on.
Yeah,
he's like, "Where's the ball? Where's the ball?" He's trying to find it. The catcher put it in his pocket.
Oh, a souvenir to be second place.
Can you imagine to be that guy, the only one on the team that is like, y'all.
No, I actually can't imagine it.
Sheesh.
I can't imagine it. Dude, I saw I think I saw one of the greatest NBA games of all time the other night. It was Celtics Heat Game 6. We talked about this a little bit yesterday.
Yeah.
No time. I mean, essentially 3 seconds left. Jimmy Butler gets fouled. It looked like it was a 2. It was a 3. He goes to the line. It was 100 to 102. He puts in all 3. It was 103 to 102 at this point with 3 seconds left. Celtics inbound at half court.
Yeah.
Marcus Smart shoots the ball, misses, and then it's followed up, and they win the game by 1. And then they get blown out on Monday in Game 7, which to your point is you said...
I think it proves my theory,
Which is?
It proves my theory that we have to go to a Game 7 to make more money. So,
which I'm like, there's no way they could have staged a Game 6, but yet your theory for Game 7 makes sense. But there's no way they could have staged that Game 6. It was unbelievable, unless they had a remote control basketball.
Yeah.
That was one of the greatest NBA finishes I've ever seen.
There's theories out there about that, right?
Oh,
Magnets
I'm sure.
and basketballs.
I'm sure there's theories about birds that are AI.
Trust me, I know all about them. Yeah.
The birds that aren't real. So something interesting that I read this week. It's called The Beast. Do you want to take a guess at what that is? I mean, you're not going to get this right. If you do, it's because you got lucky. There's no way a human could get this right.
It's called The Beast.
The Beast. What am I referring to when I say The Beast?
I don't know.
And I can give you maybe 2 clues.
My initial brain goes towards like some kind of eating competition.
They know that's not right, but that's not a bad angle.
Gotcha.
So I'll give you 2 hints. So ask me 2 questions. Is it A? And I can say yes or no, or 3, and we'll see if we can get
it's like
closer.
21 questions.
We'll do 3.
Yeah.
You're never going to get it. Nobody will ever get it.
What's the point?
Because you might get lucky.
Like,
we might. I mean, maybe
does this
we'll
have
lucky.
to do with sports?
No.
Oh man. Does it have to do with entertainment? I don't. This is going to go on forever.
Well, I said 3.
Okay. I don't know. Does it have to do with the human body?
No. All right.
Okay. Yeah. So, then I'm gone. I'm gone at that point.
The Beast is what they refer to as the limo that the president rides in.
Oh, okay.
So a couple of crazy facts about this thing. I was reading up on this and I couldn't believe what I was reading. All right. This isn't too impressive, but it weighs 10 tons. Which that is kind of impressive.
That is impressive. Yeah.
I mean, it's like they say it's basically this bulletproof, shatterproof, and explosion-proof,
like rocket launcher proof. Yeah.
And they have so the car can lay down oil slicks behind it.
What?
Yeah,
it's like go gadget.
Yes, it can lay down oil slicks. It has grenade launchers in it.
Stop.
And they say it's just about indestructible. And
I gotta look this up.
It carries the president's blood inside.
Oh, yeah.
Backup
so in case
blood.
he ever needs, okay.
Those are just a couple of fun facts for what they call the Beast. And they have more than one. Some of them are, I guess you would say, placebos, if you will. I guess that's not the right word, but you see what I'm saying. They're fakes. they're imitations. They're the real thing, but they're not. The president's not always in them. You know, throw you off.
Yeah.
So
decoys.
Placebo wouldn't be the right. Decoys, yeah. Placebo, not the right word, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
if you're eating it. So, I mean, it's pretty impressive. Give me something you've learned this week, something interesting you've read or discovered.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I was actually showing you this a little bit before the podcast.
This is actually really impressive.
So I came across, if you've seen or heard, Photoshop unleashed a whole new AI thing. It's ridiculous. And so this is the mind-boggling side of AI. So I'm taking, and maybe like in a clip, we'll throw up some visuals so you can actually see this, but I'm taking photos of like my family. I literally showed you before this, and it's like I have a picture of my wife and my 2 kids, and they're on the beach, and all I have to do is use the lasso tool and like select them, and just in the little AI generator thing it has now, it says remove the people, and in 10 seconds they're gone, and it fills in the backspace with the rest of the beach,
like it's just
perfectly.
A perfect
I can't tell that anything has happened. Like a month ago, I would have had to spend all day trying to remove them from a picture, and now AI does it in 10 seconds.
But you can even make that picture wider.
Yeah, so I was showing you how, I mean, a picture of my kids and their cousins, and they don't even, their legs are cut off in the picture, basically. And I expanded the photo, and they're standing on the beach, and it filled in the rest of their legs and their feet. It put their feet in the sand. Sand is on their feet. Blew out the rest of the photo, and I can't even tell that anything is wrong with it.
They gave contour to the photo with fence posts that didn't exist. That are like their own creative thing, sticks in the sand.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
So that's what I've discovered. And I've spent literally the last week kind of just blowing my mind.
And I would say between that and the Beast, those are 2 of the most impressive things that have happened so far in 2023 for me. I mean, that's impressive.
AI and the Beast.
Yeah. Hey, you asked for it.
Oh my goodness, you are so fast. I picked up my coffee.
I got you, bro.
I can't.
You asked for it. Bring it on.
All right.
We only got one question that I want to answer.
Don't blame me.
So let's cover.
You asked for it.
All right, you asked for it. I'm doing one question today because I'm disturbed about this topic. It says, what will Washington's new name be? So, okay, so we're not really sold, but we are sold. There's a commitment to be sold, but we're not really sold yet. It's just chaos. You wouldn't expect the Commanders' sale to be any easier than this, right? Are we going to be sold before next year? I think we are, but I don't know that we are. If a higher bidder comes, who knows? And they're saying if the new buyer buys Washington, will they change the name because Commander was in the old era? They don't really know. Nobody knows. The trademark for the W got denied last week. It's chaos. We're an expansion team that can't even get a name or an owner. I mean, it's just a joke. Yeah. This is a joke. So what will our name be? I don't care. Yeah. I just want to win.
Yeah, you don't care.
So do I think they'll change it? I think the new owner will come in and rebrand because the W even got rejected. What are you going to do? You know, I like our new uniforms, but other than that, just put a winning product on the field.
Yeah.
So I don't know what our new name is going to be. I have no idea.
It's pretty crazy the journey you've been on.
Yeah. Man, it's been a roller coaster. It's one thing to have a team that's not good, right? Like Oakland A's. We're 12-45 this year. A lot of people say, you're a Braves fan. You're right. I'm a Braves fan. We go to Atlanta all the time. We watch a lot of games. Why? Because my wife's a Braves fan, which means that's where we invest all of our money.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm an A's fan. I have been for a long time. You just don't talk about the A's because we don't win a lot, right?
Yeah.
But we beat the Braves the last 2 nights. Wow. We walked them off last night on an air. I don't care. 2-1. Whatever. Night before, beat them.
How'd your wife feel about that?
I asked her. I said, what was the score of that game? And she just, in her kind morning voice, just tells me to shut up. But I mean, we're 12-45, and 2 of our wins have come against one of the best teams in baseball. So
geez.
say what you will, but it's been a tough journey, to say the least. It's been emotional, overwhelming, anger, no joy, and no hope is the best way to describe it. And I still bought season tickets.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
You're passionate.
I'm stupid. I don't know if that takes place. All right, so a couple of things we're going to talk about. We're going to get into these pretty fast. Okay. All right. So a lot of people have boycotted Target because of their I don't even know, LGBTQ. What's the plus sign after the Q? Is that
extra? Yeah. Just, okay. Yeah.
Just curious. I don't know.
Yeah.
So they have the Target has their line out. Bud Light had a transgender activist kind of being their spokesperson, and all of a sudden nobody's drinking Bud Light anymore, or Budweiser. And then the LA Dodgers are now in a mix because there's a group called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, which is a mockery of some Catholic nuns. It's basically transgender nuns that dress almost a mockery to religion. And this is what people say. This is what the articles are saying. And if you see the pictures, you can see, okay, that's what they are. Basically, they call themselves, they're defined as an order of trans and queer nuns, okay? So the Dodgers, they're saying, are rewarding anti-Catholic hate speech. So now they're in it. You're messing with the Catholics. They're in it deep right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Some of the Dodgers players have come out and said they will not support this, that they are all for inclusion and supporting everybody. But how can a group of people that are dressed like this, they're, trans and queer nuns that are making a mockery of the Catholic nuns and the religious faith, how can you support them when they're making a mockery of something else? So now it's turned on itself. The snake is biting its own head off, essentially is what you could say. And so people publicly supporting these LGBTQ rights. So now people are saying, hey, sports teams, Budweiser, Target, all of these companies sell a product, but stay out of politics and support your brand. My question is this. How is it possible to stay out of politics if you're a brand? Is it really possible? Because if you stay out, they say you don't care. If you jump in, they say that you're against somebody, whether it's LGBTQ or faith or you could have somebody that you support and their brother was a murderer. And so now they're saying, well, you support this dude's brother was a murderer, and now you're supporting this family that was hurt. You see what I'm saying? It's a rabbit trail of if you support anybody, it goes down a rabbit trail fast, right? Yeah. So I understand the Dodgers' perspective in saying, well, we don't want to keep these Sisters of Indulgence out, even though what they represent may not be what the popular opinion likes, because they still support something. And other groups say, well, we support satanic groups and Christian groups. The problem is you can't support everything. It's just not the way life works. Everybody has opinions, right?
Yeah.
My question is, they're saying sports teams, Bud Light, all this stuff, stay out of politics and just sell your brand. But is it possible? Because everything's political now. If you have an opinion, it's considered politics, essentially, when it comes to identity.
Well, I think the opposite is also true, that politics has infected everything. So I think it's twofold. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but I think politics has also come into this space that politics never really was necessarily in. So I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question.
How can you stay out of politics is my question. How do you stay out of it as a sports team? What if you just don't have an LGBTQ night and you don't have a pride night? What happens to your franchise? So we're saying stay out of politics. Well, you don't have a pride night, but then you're like, well, you don't have a faith night either.
Yeah.
All the Christians come to a Braves game. But and you would think, and I'm saying, well, what's the difference? My thing is,
but is at some point do we get into so I'm gonna take this out of the sports world and put it into the music world, because that's kind of the world that I live in. I don't really listen to country music, and so I'm not really expecting country music to brand themselves for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, there's a level of, as a consumer of country music, that's fine. I'm just not a part of that world, and so I almost like I'm disconnected from that world anyway. Again, I can appreciate the musical creativity and that kind of stuff, but I don't. From my angle, as a person that doesn't really listen to country music, I don't expect them to market to me. So maybe that's how I view it, is like, I'm not part of your demographic anyway, and I'm not expecting you to come after me.
So when Bud Light markets with the transgender activist to their crowd, And then people are turning on it. Like their sales were down like over 20% last month after that. And they're not rebounding. And Bud Light is actually giving away cases of beer.
Yeah.
Is what they're saying in stores because they can't get anybody to buy it. Now, there's a million different articles you can read and rabbit trails you can go down. My point is they obviously marketed to a demographic within their product that, a lot of people come out and this and that. So if you're a baseball, so in the sports world, nobody was clamoring for Pride nights. The majority wasn't.
Yeah.
Right? Am I against them? No, I'm against a world where you can't ever be right.
Yeah.
I'm against the chaos of like, why can't, like, if you love somebody, that means you have to hate somebody else. Yeah. That's essentially what the world's telling us.
We can't agree to disagree.
Like,
anymore.
Why can't I just love people and be okay with the fact that I don't submit to their lifestyle and they don't submit to mine? Why can't I just love people unconditionally?
Yeah.
And let my life be my life. But if I don't support you, meaning you don't support me. Well, if I don't wear your t-shirt, whatever that means for whatever brand and whatever activist or whatever it may be, then all of a sudden I'm not in support of you. So you can't just stand for what you stand for and love people. If you stand for what you stand for and love people, then they're saying you're against something else. So it makes it to where the world doesn't even realize the snake's biting its own head. They're making you hate people. Yeah. You hate us because you won't wear this brand. No, I'm wearing my brand. Well, why does that mean? It means I love everybody. Well, if you don't stand for this, then you're against this. Well, who said?
Yeah.
But that's really what the world's doing. That's really what all this crap is going on. Is like there's no method. There's no mode that makes sense to it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
You can't be right.
Yeah.
There's no space for people who just genuinely want to love other people and not judge them. There's no space in the world for that. The world thinks they're creating that by giving inclusion to everybody, but you're not giving inclusion because the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence would be inclusion.
Yeah.
Trans and queer nuns would be inclusion. They're making fun of the religious faith in their mind. Maybe they're not. In a lot of people's minds there are. They're a mockery to so many people and to the Catholics. Well, why would you not include them? That's what the Dodgers were thinking. Am I in support of that? No, I think this is pandemonium. Yeah, I think it's pandemonium. What did we think we were going to solve when we started trying to give all of these rights to groups? What did we think we were going to happen? Well, the problem is we're trying to give everybody a space.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that.
No.
It's not inclusion. It's not. How many groups get nights at baseball stadiums throughout the summer? Well, June is Pride Month. Everybody knows that, right? If a church were to put a rainbow flag out in front of their church, what are people going to think? It's pride inclusion, not, Jesus' promise never fled the earth, right?
Yeah.
You see my point? That doesn't mean the same thing to the world that it means to the church. It should. It doesn't. But my point is, I'm not against LGBTQ. I'm not against any of that. I love people. Meaning I'm not against people.
Yeah.
I'm not against Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. I'm not against them as people. Yeah. Do I like what everybody stands for? No, but this is where I'm saying the world has made it to where you can't just love people and support people because when you support somebody, they make it to where you're against somebody else.
Yeah.
And so what's the solution? There is none. What it does is the world is producing hate and doesn't even realize it. It's just producing hate.
Yeah.
What good can come of this?
Yeah.
There's Star Wars nights, but there's not Sandlot nights.
This is what that was all about, wasn't it?
This
whole thing
is the climax of the story.
Yeah.
My point is, you can't just love people and be okay with people and support people because we're so worried about offending people, and then we have to explain in 15 essays why we didn't mean to offend somebody. It's like, listen, if we really were fair and equal in how we treated people, Jesus wouldn't keep coming back up as something to be excluded. In schools, well, don't pray. Why? Why can I not pray? Why? Help me understand. Well, it's offensive. Well, there's a lot of things that are offensive to me, and I'm not writing to my governor about it.
Yeah.
Like, why? And I saw somebody comment on a video. I said something. They're like, oh, he snuck Jesus in there. If you're listening to this podcast, the only reason I'm doing it is because I'm a passionate lover of Jesus. Yeah. Because I'm using it as another outlet to do everything I can to help people understand the gospel and who God is and the heart of God. That's why I'm doing this. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. People think Christians got to be sneaky to get the gospel out there. That's our fault then. But let me say this. Atheists are more free than religious legalists.
Yeah.
So the people that oftentimes Christians are judged by, the reason that people feel freedom when they break away from churches that are legalists is because they have found freedom. I've met people like, yeah, I just don't serve God anymore. I'm just kind of free. I do my own thing. I find blah, 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 blah. I mean, Book of Romans, Paul tells the church, you can find God in nature, meaning like he said, you can't look at nature and not see God in it, knowing that his hand is on it.
Yeah.
And so that's not the church. That's not the answer for the church. Like, we need the local church. This is the bride of Christ. You need the bride of Christ. But my point is, atheists are more free than legalists, because legalists bind you with religion. Atheists aren't bound with any religion.
Yeah.
Because Jesus is freedom. And so for me, atheists are closer than the heart of God than religious legalists. Because there's freedom. They're not living with the confines of a religious construct that this has to be this way or else God's unhappy. That's not scripture.
Yeah.
That's not the way the Bible's written. The Bible's written that Christ is freedom. He's freedom from sin. He's freedom from bondage. He's freedom from things that have tried to take your life. You know? And when we live like that, we're like, man, I can't imagine not having God. But when people go through tough times, sometimes they become legalists. Like, how do I get this to fix this? How do I get God to fix this? And when I read all this stuff, I'm like, I mean, Target right now, people are like, I'm not going to Target. Well, next year you will, because they're coming out with their Christmas stuff. You're going to need to buy something. Like, give me a break. How many times have people boycotted Target and Walmart? Give me a break. They're going back. You know, they're going back. So if they really knew the root of a lot of where they're spending their money, people wouldn't spend money anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So, you know the guy who grew your coffee beans? Do you know who he is? Do you know what he believes? You feel me? And so, I don't know, man. I just feel like this is just a rabbit trail of it's never going to stop.
No.
And you get pegged as hating somebody depending on who you support.
Yeah.
That's my soapbox.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah, it is.
It's a lot to think about. You know, as you were saying that, though, like I do think we have this, you know, something in our culture where, you know, we almost want to be offended about something. We almost feel like we need to be offended. But but at the same time, I keep going back to, you know, like that Billy Graham's Last Message. I don't know if that YouTube video that they did, or basically he's saying the cross is offensive. You know, like Jesus's his relationship in your life at the start. There's a lot of things that are offensive because what Jesus did for you, and because of our collective sin, because of my sin, all of a sudden we're met with this mercy and this grace. And what they're basically saying in that message was, a lot of times we have this dichotomy of I'm flooded with mercy and grace and love, but at the same time I'm flooded with guilt and shame because of my brokenness. And so in that way, the cross in some way is offensive, but we have to work through that offense with God to get to the healing. And so I don't find it funny that as a world we struggle with offense, and all the while God's like, if you would just let me work, if you would let me work, I could process this with you. And kind of I think we stop at the door of offense and we don't walk through anything. And so I think even in conversations, you know, even with people, as soon as they offend us, we get offensive, you know, and it just escalates from there. And so there's not conversations anymore. There's not, I don't know. So, I think I've learned through the years, and I'm sure you can attest to this too, that my relationship with God is a conversation. It's an ongoing conversation with God, where the truth is at times it's offensive, and it's, I have to deal with conflict in my life that God brings up, and it's uncomfortable. And I think as a culture, we just run away from conflict. And the nature of God is that he wants to work with you through the conflict until you get to a solution. And so I'm afraid that we just stop at the door of offense.
Do you remember growing up how it was like, don't drink, don't smoke? Those are like kind of the rules.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't drink, don't smoke, don't listen to secular music. Don't watch Beavis and Butthead. You know, like there was rules.
Yeah.
That
The Simpsons.
Yeah, like you'd see, you'd see somebody smoking, you'd be like, I just pray that Lord will like convert them. Like I really hope that they come to know Jesus. I mean, and I felt like that.
Yeah.
Because that's what I believed. And I'm not ashamed to say that now, because I don't even think that. Years ago, I was preaching at a church early on in my ministry. I was probably 22 years old. I was fresh out of college, maybe 24, 25. And I had preached at a church, and we went out to lunch afterwards. And there was a man at the bar, and he was in a suit, and tie, like he just come from church, and he was drinking. And I remember thinking, man, I can't believe that dude. He's supposed to represent Christ. He obviously just came from church. It's a Sunday afternoon, and he's sitting there drinking. That was my thought. And the Lord spoke to me so clearly, and he said that is not strong enough to separate him from me.
Yeah. That's good.
Like that stuff can't separate him from me. Is his heart.
Yeah.
Like, and it was just a very quick correction. And I think our kids are going to look back at the LGBTQ conversation and all the things that this generation gets hung up on and say, man, I hate that we push so many people away from the church and Jesus because we judge them without knowing them. We judge people without actually knowing their story and their heart. Because the thing about the Bible is that it's real, it's fact, it's historical, and it's a guide. And the Bible doesn't exist to tell us how to live. The Bible exists so that we see how God designed us to live.
Yeah.
He created, it's a creation. Like he created us to live in such a beautiful, incredible, we're not made for trauma. We're not made for death. God didn't create us for that. But we chose that, right? So the Bible says, this is how I've created you. And all your hurt and your pain and your loss and your discord, this is how I've created you. And people look at it as, well, I got to follow this book. No, that's not the way that it works. You don't have to follow anything. You can do what you want. But I think just like the generations before us, it became very topical in things that sent people to hell. I think our generation, we think we're deeper because it's the deeper things that send people to hell. Whereas God's like, there's no height or depth, angel or demon, a fear of today or worry about tomorrow that can separate people from the love of God.
Yeah.
Nothing can separate them from my love except for them.
Yeah.
They have to choose not to want me.
Yeah.
And that's a different conversation. You know, there's all kinds of stories in the Bible about homosexuality and, you know, the things people could read into with transgender and all these things. And they're fact. This is exactly how it has to be. I'm not saying that I disagree with it. I don't disagree with anything the Bible says or for any reason that it says it. Nothing. I'm a 100% in. But the problem is the Bible is black and white. We make it gray. And that's why we have no grace in our life for ourselves or anybody else, because we don't see God as a redeemer unless he's redeemed us. When you've been saved from something and his grace has covered your life, you're not throwing stones. You're doing everything you can to show people Jesus. And like, doesn't matter where they're at in their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just hate this conversation. And I'll tell you why I hate it. Because Jesus wasn't having it the way we have it.
Yeah.
It was never about your lifestyle and about your beliefs and about whether or not you served the government. It was always about he is the Messiah, the Savior, the one who rescues and redeems and restores. And at some point, we've gotten off realizing God's called us to bring people to him through our life.
Mm-hmm.
Not through how we preach. Those things help. Not through our socials. Those things help, but through our life. And that's the weight people don't want to carry. And that's why they become legalists, because I'll just follow rules and it'll get me in the relationship. But that's not the way it works. Our lives should be so welcoming and loving and caring for every person. You can tell people they're living a good life, but you can tell they're like a little bit of judgment. Like I'm cool with you, man. I love you. And they never say anything, but you can just kind of tell. But when it's genuine, it's different. You know what I'm saying? Like it's different. And I think that's where, that's the hard part. God said, do it with your life. And if you've been redeemed, if your life's been transformed, man, it'll transform other people's lives. You know, I love Steve Jobs wrote an email to himself. And in the email, he'd read it. And in the email, this is what it said. He said, I grow little of the food I eat, and of the little I do grow, I do not breed or perfect the seeds. I do not make any of my own clothing. I speak a language I did not invent or refine. I did not discover the mathematics I use. I am protected by freedoms and laws I didn't not conceive or legislate, and I do not enforce or educate. I am moved by music I did not create myself. When I needed medical attention, I was helpless to help myself survive. I did not invent the transistor, the microprocessor, object-oriented programming, or most of the technology I work with. I love and admire my species, living and dead, and am totally dependent on them for my life and well-being.
That's good.
What a reminder for somebody who was one of the greatest inventors of and technological advancers of our time.
Yeah.
You know, what an incredible reminder of somebody who did nothing more than recognize his need for other people, the heart of God is in that.
Yeah.
God created us for each other, for community. He created the local church to be his bride, as a place for rest, as a place for hope, as a place for healing. And I feel like if we would just stop there and say, you know what, our life should reflect Jesus in a way. We just love people, love them. I think we would see a lot. When that happens, these conversations become about cigarettes and about drinking alcohol. Well, you drink a beer, you're going to hell. You know what I mean? Yeah. These conversations become as surfacey as that, because you realize no height or depth, nor angel or demon, no fear about today or worry about tomorrow can separate us from the love of God.
Yeah.
It's bigger than that. God's love is so much bigger than everything that we make a mountain out of. You know?
Mm-hmm.
What he has for people is bigger. And we make it so sudden and so crass. So, anyway, you got any final thoughts on that?
I kind of laugh and just, are we that stubborn? Like, I think when I reflect on my own life, I think like, yeah, I think there in my relationship with God, sometimes it just takes those kind of like really low or valley moments or whatever that you have with God, as much as sometimes other people can say it to you or whatever, you just kind of like, you have to wrestle with God, and it's the outcome of the wrestling. And yeah, maybe that's our stubborn nature. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, when I think people argue, we'll get people say, well, smoking cigarettes and doing these things are two totally different things. I'm not talking about the things. I'm talking about the mindsets of how we look at things. Like we look at them, like the Bible says, the people inside the church, like we're there to help, correct, exhort, lift up. The people outside, it says they're not claiming anything, so leave it alone.
Yeah.
My point even bigger than that is the kindness of God leads people to repentance. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah.
So if our best bet is to love people and love each other, I'll tell you what, it makes your home better. It makes your life better when you have grace for yourself. So if we focus less on trying to fix things and more on just loving people and not worrying about where they're at in their life, but helping them get wherever God's taking them and loving them, or if they're like, well, I don't even serve God. Well, your love is not extended because of who they serve. That doesn't matter. And something my wife told me years ago that really just made such an impact on me. She said, when you forgive people, you do it without expecting them to change. You can't forgive expecting anything different from them.
Yeah.
And the same is with love. Love isn't isolated to people that believe like you do, or look like you do, or act like you do, or think like you do, or somebody that has the money that you do. It is what it is. And so when I read all this stuff, it's just the world doesn't know how to love. They don't. There is a level to which Christians can go, the world can't. And that's the reality of the way Jesus has taught us to live. So, final thought.
Here's my final thought.
So we just celebrated Memorial Day. Did you cook out?
We cooked in.
So no.
Yeah.
Did you or did you not use the grill?
I mean, we did a crock pot pork shoulder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that we made into like pork tacos and stuff. So it was still delicious. But yeah, I didn't technically go outside to grill.
Well, Memorial Day was my anniversary, so me and my wife actually went out that night. But we did. We got some steaks. So I didn't cook out, but it was on a grill. It was delicious.
Oh yeah.
So, but Memorial Day, we just had this. So I'm gonna give him let's give some tips for the summer. Okay. I like to grill.
Yeah.
In fact, we had this conversation yesterday because Corey said, "Man, I'll grill out in any type of weather." I said, "Not me, bro. I don't like rain." My old house, we used to have an overhang in the garage. I'd grill out. This new one, we don't have it. And then I sent them a picture last night. It was raining, and I was grilling.
Yep.
And they said, "Was this a choice?" I said, "Nope."
Yeah,
I was told.
You were told.
I was told. So there was this article I read about how to not die of E. coli this summer.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I hope that it's something we can all take to heart. It said E. coli can cause dehydration. There's a list of other things I'd rather not mention. And it said, and kidney failure in children under 5. Ugh. You wonder why our world is anxious and panicked? It's because there's articles like this telling you don't have E. coli, your kid can die of kidney failure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tragic.
Yeah.
And it's awful. Not that I don't need to know that.
Yeah.
Like, I just tell me how not to do that. But reading that just kind of hurt my heart. You know what I mean?
Really.
I know you can't avoid things, and when you avoid them, it doesn't mean they don't happen. But some things are better left unsaid. That was one of them.
True.
So it said, don't reuse utensils in places when cooking and transferring foods from the grill.
Yeah.
Whatever. Wash your hands properly, of course. If bringing food somewhere, you got to pack it so that the temperature doesn't get above 40. So ice that thing down.
Okay.
And then it says food should never sit out longer than 2 hours. And if it's above 90, no more than 1 hour. If it's over 2 hours, throw it away. Throw it out. Throw it out. Throw it
Can
out.
we can I add something?
Please.
Can we add cheese into that too? Is there any people out there that really like sweaty cheese? Because that's not me. That's not me. Listen, listen.
Sweaty cheese, bro. That's an awful visual.
Listen, I'm talking to you, Mary Brown. I've had this debate within my family for a long time.
I like sweaty
and how
cheese.
My mother-in-law basically loves it when cheese has sat out way too long and is oozing sweat at that point, and she says it makes it more flavorful. I'm like, no, that thing needs to be cold. I'm not.
I don't know if I agree with it makes more flavorful, but I will say I don't mind a good piece of sweaty cheese.
Oh, come on. It's just gross.
This sweaty cheese never hurt nobody.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm going to write a wiki page about sweaty cheese and how it causes bad things in your life.
Sweaty cheese is probably one of the things you can eat at Limitless. You could probably throw that thing on the floor and come back to it and it'll be all right. I mean, cheese is hard to beat.
At that point, we're in between cold and just melting it on a piece of bread.
Yeah,
just melt it,
the
please.
in between.
Yeah. I don't like the in between. God says he'll spit it out of his mouth. So.
Could you tell me where that's at?
Lukewarm, baby, lukewarm.
Hey, there ain't nothing wrong with a good piece of sweaty cheese. I'll say that, but I will say,
There is.
I will say that this article is really defied a lot of things that I personally do. Because if I'm going somewhere and I just made like burgers, bro, I ain't putting them in a cooler. Those things are gonna be hot because I'm bringing them hot to your house.
They're gonna sit out all day long. Flies are gonna
birth
larvae on them.
See, I'm not an outdoor eater, so if we cook, we keep the food in. You can eat out, but the food's staying in because
Gotcha.
I don't do that. I don't like flies doing whatever they do on a dog turd on top of my burger. Whatever that is, they do with their back legs.
There's the myth that like every time they land, they basically go to the bathroom. Yeah,
Well,
it might be true. I don't
I
know.
ain't even worry about that. Even though that their little mitts are almost molecular, they land on a dog turd and then they land on your burger, and then people just shoo it and keep eating.
Look.
I'm like, you would never let somebody put a toothpick in a dog turd and touch your tongue with it. So why are you okay with the fly doing that with all of his legs and then land on your burger and then you eat it?
All I gotta say
that's
is
a bigger problem than E. coli. That's probably where people get sick, and they're calling it E. coli.
Listen, I rarely get sick. That's all I gotta say.
Well,
So,
you keep your food outside. You're destined. You get enough flies, bro. It's going down. And probably throw some sweaty cheese in your diet. You might help you.
No.
Well, I read another article that was talking about salmon, and it said that like some people hate salmon, but something that has really turned the salmon industry around is when people cook it on cedar planks.
Huh.
I've done cedar plank salmon. It's delicious.
Yeah.
I can't fish on the grill is hard anyway for me, but you put on like a cedar plank, it's easy. You know what I mean? It's like a walk in the park.
I don't know if I've ever had that.
It's good. You like salmon?
I like salmon. Salmon's the only fish that I do.
You'll like it on a cedar plank. It gives it that nice wood fire kind of deeper flavor. So for all you cooking, this is what I want to tell you. For all you cooking, hey, keep your keep your burgers hot and your macaroni salad cold, and you're gonna have a great summer.
Oh man!
Make sure it's cold, and make sure you eat as much sweaty cheese as you can.
Yeah.
Before it turns brown.
Yeah.
All right, let's pray. Lord, we thank you for everybody. I thank you for your goodness, your mercy, your hope, and I pray that everybody who listens to this would know that you love them, you think about them often, and that God, we are never removed from your love until we remove ourselves. We love you, and we thank you. And everybody said, "Amen." Y'all have a good one. All right, that's a wrap.